It is launch day, it is patch day, it is a big day for Total War Warhammer 2 with the Twisted and Twilight update that just rolled out today. Now, these are the patch notes from yesterday. We'll be going over both the patch notes and the unit balance changes really quick today. Now, this is a massive set of patch notes. If you don't want to watch this whole entire video, I don't blame you. So I'm going to try and give you just a real quick upfront surveillance of what's going on. For the most part, you probably know all of the Wood Elf reworks that are coming, but outside of that, there is a big change to the way unit collision works, in that when you go to charge something, things will tend to be braced better. It's harder to push through units. There's just a lot better density in the game. If you're playing the dwarfs, this gives you a lot more longevity with your army. Now, in addition to that, we have a big change with projectiles as they move through trees and other types of vegetation. Essentially, the way this works is there is a slight delay in the time in which a unit or artillery piece fires a missile from within vegetation, and that unit or that missile being spawned into the game. So this will prevent you, say, from having a wood elf that is directly in front of a tree and shooting their bow and arrow. This will prevent the tree from blocking that bow and arrow shot. So you shoot the arrow, it waits a little bit, then it actually spawns the shot itself in after it's passed through a couple branches and trees here and there. So this should hopefully help you when shooting out of a forest. Outside of that, there's been a lot of changes to the way that the Wood Elves work as a whole. We've seen a lot of that stuff so far in some of the content I cover across my channel and a ton of other channels, but you can check that out across all of YouTube, really. Another big change is the way that bracing works. There's a new system that's been added to the game that essentially makes it so that even if a unit's in combat, it can still brace as long as it is facing an enemy. So those are some of the bigger sweeping changes that have been made to the game as far as the combat system goes. There's a lot of campaign tweaks that happened as well, and a lot of other little tweaks here and there. So if you are playing a specific campaign, go ahead and just do a Control F and maybe type in let's just say response. Okay, well, here's all the response changes. For the most part, these campaign changes typically are categorized by the race that they apply to. That's not always the case. It's not always the case here. But like, for instance, these are all Tomb King related. Some of these, they typically kind of stay in a group, but that, again, it's not always the case. So if you're playing a specific campaign and you want to see what applies to you, please, by all means, do a control find and take a look. As far as unit balance changes, there are a lot of stuff that has been tweaked around the board. I would say Bretonnia and Dark Elves got a pretty big buff across the board for a lot of their units across their melee attack and melee defense. And in addition to that, we've seen a lot of changes with the way mass works and the way charging applies to those units. So that's your quick kind of brief overview of both the unit balance changes and the patch. Trust me, that is such a Spark Notes version, so I apologize if I missed anything huge for you, but I just wanted to at least give you a way to get an idea of what's going on before you dive into the game, maybe while it's downloading, whatever it is. But if that's all you wanted to know, go ahead and shut the video down. Not a problem. I'm going to put a link to both of these in the description so you can read through them when you're in bed, when you're on the toilet, because we know we all do that, and any other instance in which you might need it. But for those who are sticking around for the dive deep, let's go into this. I will skim through a lot of these patch notes. This is a huge amount. Like, look at this. They said it's something like 43 pages, but take into consideration that this includes both English, simplified Chinese, and traditional Chinese. So I would say take that number, divide it by 3. That's probably what you have realistically for the language you have in mind. But moving through this, we get some big changes here. Like we've already talked about, we get the Chaos Invasion being able to be tweaked, the whole Azrai Resurgent update, and the Old World update for the Wood Elves that we've gone over in the Wood Elf video in the upper right hand corner that you can go and take a look at for the Old World update. Damage and value tracking for units. So essentially, whenever you do a multiplayer game, or even if you just do a normal game, you'll be able to, like a campaign game, you'll be able to see how well that unit performed based off of how much damage it did and the value that it earned for itself. So a lot of fun there. And knockdown and bracing changes we'll go into in its respective section. But as far as the actual Wood Elves update goes, as we know, Amber is no longer required for recruitment or building, only for a specific subset of brand new technologies. So Amber has been removed from the game as a gating resource for the Wood Elves. A lot more streamlined, a lot better. We get a ton of new regions with the Griffinwood, Forest of Gloom, the Sacred Pools, and Witchwood. These are all on the Mortal Empires map for the Wood Elves, and they act as magical forests for them to take over as part of their campaign objectives. Some new mechanics as well for the Forest Health and Rituals of Rebirth. We've talked about these before, but the Rituals of Rebirth will essentially allow you to do kind of like a mini Chaos Invasion, and they are geographically based on what comes at you. So take, for example, if you are up in the Griffinwood, there you go, then you'll be fighting Empire. That's who's going to be attacking you in your Rituals of Rebirth. Forest of Gloom is going to be Forest Goblin type stuff, right? So you're going to see some greenskins coming at you. Sacred Pools, it's going to be Lizardman related. So you get an idea of what's going on here. Witchwood is going to have some Dark Elves involved in it, and some Beastmen. So these are all kind of things to take into consideration when you're deciding your next Wood Elf campaign. Also, the Forest Health itself is dictated by the heaths around it so that you can increase your overall forest health. We've talked about the Deep Roots and how it allows you to teleport across the map. The Forest Encounters, which act as little tiny random encounters across your magical forest that include small incursions into your land. A brand new Wood Elf technology tree, brand new buildings and economy tree, economy trees? Whoops. Brand new buildings. Also, the economy has been revamped as well. Gold income has been spread across several buildings. Public order buildings are now easier to access, and Wood Elf major settlement buildings no longer require development points to upgrade. They are now called kindred points. So aspects and spites, Moneypenny, have been added to the game. So if you're playing with tree spirits, you have the ability to essentially give them aspects, willow, oak, or bark, just in the same way as the green skin scrap mechanic. And then spites are these additional effects for any ancient treeman or Durthu or Dryka that give them a passive or an active ability within campaign and battle. So it just depends on which one it is. And those spites are stuff like what's an example of one? Is one on here? No. Each spite offers a powerful campaign effect and battle ability. Well, it's like a murder of spites, and it does direct damage and anything around it in a Mortis Engine effect. That would be an example of one. Also, the Wild Hunt has been added for Orion, and then a number of other Wood Elf campaign changes. Wood Elf factions have access to an improved version of the ambush stance, which has a reduced movement point cost to enter and a reduced chance of being detected. This is called Master Ambush Stance now. Most Wood Elf specific incidents and dilemmas have been updated with more interesting effects, which is actually really cool, and they're campaign specific. Durthu's office effects have been improved and updated. Wood Elves and Dark Elves have a reduced aversion towards one another, which is nice, because if you're playing on any of the Wood Elf factions, Nystra and Arahan, that are located in Nagaron, you'll want to try and get some Dark Elf allies. Upgrading the Oak of Ages is no longer required to unlock Confederation with other Wood Elves. Instead, it grants special Confederation missions. Simply what you have to do is go and attack this said Wood Elf faction over here, win a fight, and you can immediately confederate them. Wood Elves no longer have any restriction on trade as well, which is huge, and the original Defense of the Oak final battle has been rebalanced, with enemy army compositions made more interesting and dangerous. Now, for bug fixes across the campaign, I am going to very loosely go over this. There are so many things, and like I said before, do a Control F, try and find the big ones that apply to your campaign. Everything should work retroactively. Some of the bigger stuff that they've changed, they've said will apply by deleting buildings and so on and so forth. And we'll get to what I'm talking about when I go into some High Elf stuff. But the Dwarf Redline, honored by Grimnir, now properly applies to both base and armor-piercing damage. In the past, it was supposed to increase AP damage by 12% for, I believe it's Slayers, Hammerers, and I want to say one more unit, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But that has now been added to both base and AP damage, which is nice. And I believe back in like June or July, people were saying it wasn't even applying it outright. So this has been fixed. Massif Orcal and Tor Ivris are no longer able to support fully Wood Elf settlements with enormous garrisons, which is nice, just kind of been rebalanced and removed. So in red, obviously, it is a nerf versus green being a buff or fix or nice change. Goblin Fanatic Archers will now correctly receive campaign bonuses that are relevant to them. Updated drop conditions for Norskin follower ancillaries, enabling 11 ancillaries to now drop that previously only dropped in Total War Warhammer 1. So if you're playing a Norskin campaign, expect 11 more beautiful ancillaries to be filling your repertoire. Rapunzel is no longer missing the top line skill Lionhearted, and she no longer has access to Lowen's unique Hippogriff's Knight skill in her blue campaign line. But Alistair the White Lion's unique trait now properly reduces the upkeep of all Tracian units, which is nice. Let's see. Corrected 2 typos where the dragon Ymroth in, which is Myroth right there, in Imric's dragon taming feature was being called Ymroth without the W in the game. It was literally unplayable. I always love to see those little ditties here and there. There's another one up here. Why did I not highlight it? It was another one of those ones where it's, oh yeah, Treekin have duly been milked for their delicious sap. What a delight that is. But a ton of other little changes here. Please comb through those. Find the ones that make the most sense for you. A lot of big battle changes here. A lot of stuff that involves ranged unit caps. So Vampire Coast Fleet Captains, Noctilus on a Necrofex Colossus, and Rotting Promethean Gunnery Mobs now count towards ranged unit caps. We've seen the same thing here with DJ Kotep, which they've now added into the patch notes. A great meme name for Kotep is now DJ Kotep, officially from Creative Assembly on the Casket of Skulls, now counts towards the Casket of Souls cap and the range unit cap. And you can see that this is prevalent throughout the entirety of the battle patch notes here. Range unit cap, chariot cap, chariot cap, chariot cap, chariot cap. So a lot of these changes have been applied. A lot of tweaking and rebalancing with those caps have been applied. So you should hopefully start to see less spam, quote unquote, when you're dealing with battles. Let's see here. So here's some other cool general campaign changes that I think a lot of people are stoked on. Clan Victus now starts with an Undercity beneath Crookback Mountain in Mortal Empires, which is really cool. I would have preferred Clan Victus to just start in Crookback Mountain. But that in no way gets my brain in any kind of speculation spiral as to what might be going on around Crookback Mountain that they want to add to the game, that they don't want to put Clan Victus in there, that creates opposition or whatever the hell it is. But my brain immediately just spun into some stuff on that. Clan Moore's headquarters building now also provides Chieftain hero recruitment, which is nice. The new Skaven Chieftain. When starting a campaign as Malagor, this is huge. The Marshes of Madness region is given to the top knots to prevent him from taking attrition on turn 1. This was massive. So if you played Malagor on Mortal Empires, essentially you were going to be dealing with attrition immediately, and it was an uphill battle from the start. The High Elf Hunters military recruitment chain has been merged with the Handmaidens Gallery. An additional Tier 2 building has been added to the chain, allowing early recruitment of Great Eagles. Alariel retains a separate Tier 3 building for recruitment of Sisters of Avalorn. This is what I was talking about earlier. This will cause some previously constructed buildings to appear incorrectly in older saves. These can be safely demolished. So if you are playing any kind of High Elf campaign or Alariel campaign and this is going to affect you, you can delete those buildings. Don't even worry about it. Public Order now provides bonuses and penalties per threshold for all factions. It used to be only certain factions got that. Now they all do. Growth needed per point has been increased slightly. Added display for economic modifiers and building effects. So basically, if you go to, say, choose an entertainment income production building, and you have things that increase your entertainment revenue, then it will show that actual reflection by a percentage increase next to it. So take, for example, it says 100, then you have a 10% bonus to entertainment buildings. It'll say 100, parenthetical notation, plus 10%, comma, 110, and parenthetical notation. So you'll be able to immediately see what the building has as a standard economic bonus or a standard economic benefit to you, then your economic modifiers and how they give that bonus in parentheses. Very nice. Malice's sanity effects tweaked. Mazdamundi now gets all the benefits of a second generation Slann community request. New buffs for Helmengorst and a patch notes button is now present in the game's front end menu for quick access. The auto-resolver has had some tweaks here where basically the range units can't return fire on them just because they're range units. So that's been tweaked and should help out a little bit in auto-resolve. You can now abandon settlements, which is cool. This allows you just to pretty much raise a settlement to the ground if you don't want to defend it, or maybe you grabbed it and want the AI to have it instead. Whatever kind of situation you have in mind, you can now abandon settlements. So a number of lords have had quite a few buffs across the table here. Archaon let's go with Helmengorst first. So he no longer gives charge bonus for corpse cards, but he now adds a bound spell, Lesser Raise Dead, for corpse cart and Mortis Engine units, which is nice. Also added 15 armor for zombie units in the Lord's army. Archaon the Everchosen removed his leadership bonus for Chaos Warriors, but instead, get this, added 3% weapon and missile strength per veterancy rank for all units. That is delicious. Prince Sigvald here has gotten a huge buff. I mean, this is just his faction effects and lord effects, but we do know that he gets Heroic Killing Blow now. He gets Slippery, so he has a ton more under his belt, including an increased butt mass. I'm not even lying about that. Faction effects removed the plus 15 armor for embedded characters, and instead added Rage passive for all Marauder units, upgrades to Berserk when rank 7 or higher. That is huge. That is so awesome. So basically, you're getting the benefit of being Norscan Berserker, well, like a watered-down Norscan Berserker for just your generic Marauder units, which is cool. For your Lord effects, removed plus 3 recruitment rank for Marauder units, and added Strider for all units. Not as crazy, but I mean, the Rage and Berserk is massive. Ungrim now grants 5 melee attack to Slayers, down from 10, so a bit of a nerf there, but Ungrim's Journey's End ability for Slayers now disables at 75% hit points remaining instead of 50, so it stays around for longer and allows them to do a lot more damage. Treacherous Craven Tail added, it's got a huge buff here. Faction effect plus 3 recruitment rank for Stormvermin, Encourage for Stormvermin, and improved Scurry Away, Ward Save, and improved speed benefits. Master Money removed redundant reference to Salon Mage Priest capacity, but now gains all the bonuses of a generic 2nd gen Slann in addition to previous effects. Some skill that were nerfed here is the Vampire Counts and Dwarfs. Again, Slayer King, that's the 5 melee attack for Slayers is now down to, that was 10 is now down to 5 for Slayers. The Vampire Counts Lord skill, Dark Pact, now grants 5 leadership when attacking, down from 15. What else have gotten some nice stuff with Orion and Dirth, getting unique skill lines. So you have all the Magnificence skill Unworthy now additionally grants Fear alongside the original Terror, and the skill marked by Slanesh now grants Charmed attacks and a plus 5 leadership aura effect from a plus 9. Also, the technologies for the Empire improved heavy weapons now grants expert charge defense for halberdiers, which is nice. So real quick here to sum up some last things with quality of life for battle changes. We have damage and value tracking for units. We've talked about that already. The projectile vegetation grace period, like I said before, this behavior lasts for a limited duration after the projectile is fired relative to the speed of the projectile, significantly reducing instances of units firing weapons into trees that are a few feet from them. So if you have units trying to shoot out of trees, this has now been fixed significantly in this patch, makes it way easier. Now, a big thing I probably should have talked about in the beginning is who can hide in forests. This has been changed. So everything in green can hide and everything in red cannot. So infantry, cavalry, chariots, monstrous infantry can all universally hide in forests. In the past, monstrous infantry, say Croxagores and Skinwolves could, but trolls and Famir could not. So this has now been changed here. And it tells you exactly what this benefits. All troll units, Dragon Ogres, not Shaggoths though, no siree, Animated Hulks, Chaos Spawn, Crypt Horrors, and Famir Warriors. Large monsters cannot hide in forest, but there are shorter monsters that can still hide in forest. So Brood Horrors and Ancient Salamanders can, but your larger monster like, say, a Dread Saurian cannot. Flying units cannot because they're flying above. War machines cannot because they're loud. Artillery pieces are cumbersome, so they cannot. But bolt throwers can, and Casket of Souls cannot. So, again, everything in green can now hide in forests. Everything in red can unanimously not hide in forests. There's no kind of weird discrepancy there. Although I think, to be totally honest, this is kind of a weird discrepancy, but I understand. If it's a shorter creature, it makes sense why it would be able to hide in a forest. Regardless, it's a nice little kind of universal change to everything. So, revamped the entity collision rules. We've talked about this a little bit, but essentially it just makes it so the characters are generally much sturdier on their feet. Some notably sturdy characters, Ungrim, he can brace now too, are almost impossible to knock down. All units should generally be a little sturdier, though units that were always going to be knocked down due to sheer mass and speed differences will be unaffected, and it should be harder on average to pull through units attempting to pin you in place. So a nice change there, a much needed one, especially for the dwarfs. Bracing behavior for characters. So they've added a new system in that essentially assigns tags to things that says whether or not they are braced. And just to kind of give you the one sentence thesis of this, to clarify, characters which are engaged in melee and facing their targets retain their brace status while fighting. And this applies to all characters. So if the character itself is in combat, it is facing a unit that is charging them, it's still considered braced for the benefits of a charge bonus or a charge, not a charge bonus, a charge defense. So that is very huge. But across the board here, some other little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, that is everything for the general patch notes. We're going to quickly jump over to the unit changes. I started to mark all of it, and I'm like, this is so huge. I think I just have to quickly summarize it as well. Let's quickly shift gears now over to that. And you're going to see here that for the most part, a lot of this applies primarily to hit point gain or reduction. It applies a lot to mass change, as well as a lot of fluctuations with swapping both melee attack and melee defense. This is something that they started a couple patches ago. I want to say 2, if not ramped up heavily during Grom the Paunch and Eltharion, is that they've reduced across the board many units and heroes melee defense, but increase their melee attack. This is to make battles not last as long because they are things are hitting more often because they have higher melee attack, and things are going to get hit more often because they have lower melee defense. So that is an overall balance change that they've made that I've seen ramped up even more so here. But for Bretonnia, we have a number of benefits for foot squires, yeomen, mounted yeomen archers, the wardens. For the most part, Bretonnia got a nice little buff with some minor little tweaks here and there with charge bonus drops, and that's why it's in red. I started going through this pretty much and going, hey, this is all a bonus, then it's in green. This is all a nerf, then it's in red. And it really doesn't make much sense because I don't think that any of us are going to look at the damsel's inability to charge or a slight reduction in her charge as some massive nerf. For it is not. Dark Elves, a massive increase to them, as well as they've gotten a number of bonuses to their melee attack, to their damage fluctuation. Like a lot of it, for example, that has had their melee attack increase and base weapon damage increase. And it's pretty nice because you can see, especially here for Crone Helleborn on the Cauldron of Blood, her melee attack was increased by 4, and then her AP damage was increased from 155 to 245. So a lot of those big tweaks. Another example here would be a Death Hag on the Cauldron. Her base weapon damage was fluctuated here. So from 180 to 85, but her AP went from 80 to 205. And you'll typically see that happen. If both numbers increase, it's an overall increase in general and AP damage, obviously. But when you see those two numbers swap like that, they're basically saying, hey, it's going to do less base damage, but way higher AP damage, or vice versa. So it's always a cool little change to see there. Some tweaks here to Dreadlords. A lot of it, like I said, though, comes down to amount, entity, mass changes across the board for almost everything. But another big one, too, are the Dread Knights, who got melee attack and health bonuses. They did get a slight increase to their cost, though, for 50 on both the base and the Regiment of Renown. But overall, a nice bonus to them. Bleak Swords, Dark Shards, and Dark Shard Regiments of Renown all got, Dark Shards Regiments of Renown are right there. All got benefits here. Leadership changes increasing, bonuses to their damage, a slight cost reduction in the example of the Dark Shards, but the Bleak Swords themselves got melee attack bonuses, charge bonus, melee defense bonus, so Bleak Swords themselves got a little bit tankier and better. Blackguard Corsairs also got that same treatment. For Dwarfs, we see a very interesting bonus here, or a very interesting kind of layout. All satchel charge things have gotten a slight nerf to their AP damage and to their explosion damage. All characters have gotten generally better. The Giant Slayers swapped off a little melee attack for some melee defense, and got a little bit bonus to their health. But pretty much all of their range units including their set pieces, or the artillery pieces, got a massive, not a massive, but a nerf to their leadership. For Empire, it's very, very slim here for them. They already got a pretty big one, mainly applying to their arch lectors, which got just simply mass changes and changes in their accelerations and decelerations. And then Halberdiers, cost got a massive reduction by 75 points from 625 to 550, and replaced charge defense versus all with charge defense versus large. So they got that point reduction and then lost a pretty big benefit of theirs with charge defense versus all. Also, Carl Franz on a Pegasus gets a better splash damage. Greenskins have had a lot of tweaking here. I found this pretty interesting to see that they got such a massive tweak, but mainly it applies to a lot of the troll units. We can see here that Lava Spider Riders, for example, the Regiment of Renown. Oh, that's the Regiment of Renown. I'm sorry, that's the WA unit. Got its melee attack change from 22 to 15, charge bonus from 22 to 14, and melee defense from 30 to 22. Additional hit points 73 to 69. So a big nerf on them. But the generic ones also just got the just their basic health loss, and the deaf creatures, which are the riders, also got some health loss. But definitely got tweaked down, I would say. Definitely everything was tuned down a little bit. A lot of cost changes happened. Crimson Killers were reduced here too. Black Orc Big Boss from 775 to 825 with an increase there. And 8 Peak Loonies got a 50-point increase as well. Jumping over to High Elves real quick here. Again, a lot of balance changes with the melee attack and the melee defense for this. So for across the board, you can see pretty much everyone has melee attack and defense changed on all of their monstrous mounts, or just the mounts itself. So for example, Prince on a Griffin. Melee attack change from 52 to 54, and then melee defense change from 38 to 42. So melee attack went up by 2, and then defense went up a little bit here because it looked like this was a little bit overtuned, but some things have gotten that the additional swap we talked about before. Attack up from 46 to 50, defense down from 48 to 44. So it looks like it just kind of depends here, but for the most part, a lot of melee attack and defense swapping and changing and tweaking. Lizardmen here, I actually have not looked at just yet, but we'll go look at this one together. Charge bonus change for Tic-Tac-Toe from 60 to 75, and we saw him being used pretty well in the Everchosen Invitational by Falcon. Melee weapon length changed from 3 to 6. This is actually something that I've seen quite a bit too in these patch notes. Run speed change, acceleration, charge, turn speed, fly speed. So a lot of tweaking, making him able to juke and speed up a little bit better. Let's see, any cool ones on here? A lot of cost changes here for Krokgar on his various mounts. Looks like he overall went down in points by about 100 on every single variation of himself. Let's see if there's any other good ones here. Lord Croak had a cost reduction from 1600 to 1450. Ripperdactyl Riders went down as well, having their hit points change from 512 to 540. Sorry, went up. Same thing with their Colossadon Riders as well. But for the most part, I don't want to go through every single patch note on this because you can see that this is a lot denser than it has been in the past. So I don't want to skim through too much of it. So I would definitely go and check these out, see if your favorite units have been affected, if they have been nerfed, if they have been buffed up. And we've also had a number of changes to a lot of the items in the game. Von Karstein Ring, for example, here changes to unlimited uses. Ward save effect changed from 90% to 66%, and duration changed from 30 to 22 seconds. So you can be using this more often in your fights. All the runes themselves have had some changing as well. Now targets friendly units, has a casting range of 200 meters for the Rune of Oath and Steel. Negation as well, can target friendly units. Looks like it's just simply Rune of Oath and Steel and Negation. But the Restore for the Necrotech got a increase on its duration for 4 seconds. Hold the Line had a cost reduction as well. So a lot of tweaking with abilities and items here. So please go and check this out. You can find both of them having links in the comment section. Transformation of Katon 2 also got a 4-point increase on its Winds of Magic. It continues to get nerfed, unfortunately. Also, Vermintide had a slight increase from 6 to 7. And some things had their charge up time increased as well. I don't know if it's on this section here. We'll take a look. Beneath, or no, below, Menace below. Wind up charge changed from 1 to 5 seconds. Realm of Souls, 5 to 10 seconds for Ushabti. So getting those summons out on a split-second notice is going to be a little bit harder now. They've had a little bit more of a wind-up time. You can now react to them a little bit better. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. I know I didn't go through everything with a fine-tooth comb like we usually do, but I think this is probably the largest set of patch notes I've ever seen, and this video is already excessively long for what it is. So please go and check out the units or the specific factions you want to find out the most about, what got changed with them. You can see here stuff like Kolek Sun Eater got a lot of changes. He himself is now a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which I guess it was not a thing before. Oh, Prince Sigvald too. Look at that. Perfect Vigor, splash attacks, all sorts of great stuff. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all that kind of fun action. But have a good one and take care.